Hello students, here we are into zoology NEET class. We are going to continue to learning about the human reproductive health only. Few concepts are left over in human reproductive health. So in today's class we are going to wind up learning about reproductive health. So in the previous classes students, we have already learnt regarding different aspects related to human reproductive health. What is reproductive health? We have learnt about what is the problems we are facing regarding to reproductive health, what are the strategies that are there to overcome these problems related to reproductive health. We have learnt about this population growth and birth control, and also we have learnt about the sexually transmitted diseases, medical termination of pregnancy. These are the concepts that we have learnt regarding reproductive health. So students, learning reproductive health is going to be incomplete without learning infertility. This infertility is actually the biological inability, okay. It is the biological, infertility is the biological inability to contribute to conception, okay. It is the biological inability to contribute to conception. Infertility is the biological inability to contribute to conception, okay. So that means even due to the unprotected sexual cohabitation, the people are not able to contribute to pregnancy. That is nothing but infertility. That means they are not able to have children of their own. That is infertility, okay. There are different reasons behind infertility, okay. The reasons for infertility can be physical, psychological, diseases, or due to drugs, okay. Physical, psychological, diseases, or due to drugs, okay. So these could be the reasons for infertility: physical reasons, psychological reasons, drugs, and also diseases. These can be the reasons for infertility of the person. See students, if the reasons for infertility are minor and correctable, okay, if the reasons for infertility are minor and correctable, then there are some infertility clinics. Fertility clinics are available. They are now widely spread. Fertility clinics are widely spread around different places. These fertility clinics provide such minor adjustments in the reproductive systems of the male and also females, so that those minor changes can help in contributing towards conception, okay. So if the changes whatever are there, if they are treatable, then they can be easily treated in the infertility clinics by some expert professionals. Fertility clinics help in removing treating those reasons behind infertility, okay. But it sometimes if whatever the cause for infertility is not treatable, okay, if the cause for infertility is not treatable, then what should happen? We cannot leave that people to be childless, right? Some people will badly wish to have children. Not only in our country, throughout the world there are many individuals who are infertile, who are not having children, okay. So but some people who are having a very strong wish to have children, even if their body doesn't support exactly for the normal events which are required for conception, which are required for the development of the baby, even some people wish to have the children of their own. In such cases, there is one technology called as assisted reproductive technology. Assisted reproductive technology, short formly called ART. Here short forms are important students. In this concept, short forms are important. Questions are asked using the short forms also, okay. Questions are asked using the short forms also, so short forms are important. So using assisted reproductive technology, ART, here this is helpful in having the children, this is helpful in having pregnancy in spite of the problems which are there in contributing to pregnancy. This help in the pregnancy, this help in the having children of their own, okay. So there are different methods in artificial assisted reproductive technology. body, okay, which help in having the children according to the requirements, according to the needs, according to the issues there with the male as well as the female. This assisted reproductive technology is helpful in having the children, okay. So generally, in our country, in India, it is often common, it is very common in India that often women are blamed for not having the children, okay. Often women are blamed for not having the children, which is not the correct thing in all the cases. The problems for infertility may be lying even in the men also, and in the most of the cases the problem for infertility will be lying in men only particularly, okay. So it is like both men and female, male and females might have the problems for contributing to fertility, okay. So here, by using assisted reproductive technology, we are not going to correct anything in the body, but we will support the different events which are occurring during the formation of the baby, during fertilization, in different events of pregnancy. So let us take a look at those different procedures involved in assisted reproductive technology. The first method of assisted reproductive technology is in vitro fertilization, IVF, and embryo transfer. In vitro fertilization and embryo transfer. This is nothing but test tube baby. We have heard this very often. We will be hearing this very often. Test tube baby. Okay, the baby is not completely grown in the test tube. Let us take a look at this very clearly. In vitro fertilization and embryo transfer. Here, the ova from the female, okay, the ova from the female partner and the sperm from the male partner will be collected, okay. The ova from the female partner and the sperms from the male partner are collected. These ova and sperms, they are fertilized. They are fertilized in the laboratories, okay. This ova and the sperms are fertilized in the laboratories, that is in vitro. In vitro means outside the body. In vitro means outside the body. These are fertilized in the lab, okay. So all the conditions are provided to the ova and sperms just like that of the female's body, okay. So inside the female's body only this fertilization and all will be occurring. No. So for the fertilization to occur, so all the conditions which are exactly similar to that of the female's body are provided, and fertilization of the ovum and the sperms will be occurring inside the lab itself. That is in vitro fertilization. In vitro means outside the body. In vitro means outside the body. In vitro means outside the body fertilization is done. And as a result, after fertilization, what is going to form? Zygote is going to form. Zygote is going to form. This zygote is allowed to undergo cleavages. It is allowed to undergo cleavages. Zygote is allowed to undergo cleavages, and after that, after zygote is undergoing cleavages, most probably at 8 blastomere stage, at 8 blastomere stage, this zygote, this embryo at the 8 blastomere stage, embryo at the 8 blastomere stage, it is transferred into the uterus of the female, into the uterus of the female, okay. The embryo is transferred into the uterus of the female, okay. So now after the embryo is transferred into the uterus of the female, the normal events will continue. The normal events during the pregnancy will be continuing, like the embryo will get implanted into the uterus. Further that, after that, whatever the developmental changes which we have seen in the normal embryos will be occurring here in the case of this test tube baby also, okay. So this is about in vitro fertilization and embryo transfer. Here in vitro fertilization means outside the body of the female only fertilization is done. So this is commonly called as test tube babies. The ova from the female and sperms from the male are collected. They are fertilized in the lab in vitro. That means outside the body only they are fertilized. Here all the conditions are provided in such a way that it gives an environment of the female's body, okay. And after that, after fertilization, zygote is formed. Then this zygote is allowed to undergo cleavages. and particularly the embryo at the 8 blastomere stage, it is now transferred into the uterus of the females. After getting transferred into the uterus of the females, the embryo will undergo implantation and further development of the embryo will continue as the normal pregnancy only. Okay. So, here students, just in case if the female's uterus particularly is not supporting the development of the baby, okay, if the female's uterus is not supporting the development of the baby, then the same baby is collected and it is transferred into the uterus of the other female whose uterus is supporting the pregnancy. Okay. So, here that female who is not actually the biological mother of this baby, okay, that female who is not actually the biological mother of this baby, but because the mother of this baby's uterus of this baby's mother is not supporting the development of the baby. So, because the baby has to develop, they have to have this couple, they are willing to have the children of their own. So, what do? They will just transfer the embryo into some other woman's uterus who is willing to carry this baby. So, it is just like a rented uterus. Okay. So, we just take the embryo, put it into the uterus of that some other mother, the baby will be growing, she will give birth to the baby, and then the baby is belonging to this couple only. Okay. So, that female who is carrying this baby is called as the surrogate mother. Surrogate mother is the one who is carrying the baby of somebody else. Okay. She is the mother, she is the woman who is carrying the baby of somebody else. Okay. She is going to carry the baby for the full term, then give birth to the baby, and the baby is given to the couple. Okay. So, in that way this is a surrogate mother. And in some cases the females or the males may be not able to produce the ova or the sperms. If the female is not able to produce proper ova, or if the male is not able to produce the sperms, then in such cases the sperms and ova are taken from the donors also. Okay. The sperms and ova are also taken from the donors. There will be people who are selected for sperms and ova. We will select the people for taking the sperms and ova. So, from the donors we take the sperm and ova, we do the same procedure. Okay. So, this is about in vitro fertilization or embryo transfer. Simply to say, the fertilization is done out of the body, embryo is formed at 8 cell stage, and then again the embryo is transferred into the uterus. Okay. Now, we are going to learn the next procedure, zygote intrafallopian transfer. Short formly is ZIFT, zygote intrafallopian transfer, ZIFT, zygote intrafallopian transfer, ZIFT. See students, zygote intrafallopian transfer is the name itself is indicating what it is. Not only this, every technique is understood by its name itself. Okay. So, here zygote intrafallopian transfer in the sense the ova and the sperm are collected. Okay. The ova and the sperm are collected. They are fertilized in vitro, that means outside the body they are fertilized. Then the zygote is going to form. This zygote is transferred into the fallopian tubes of the female. Okay. So, here this is generally done when there is any problem related to the production of ova. Okay. If there is any problem related to the production of ova or the ova reaching the fallopian tubes, in such cases the ZIFT is performed. Ova production if there is problem, or ova reaching the fallopian tubes if there is any problem, in that cases zygote intrafallopian transfer is performed. Okay. So, students, here the ova and the sperms are collected from the male and female individuals. if the male and female individuals are not able to produce the ovum or sperms, from the donors also they are collected and they are fertilized in vitro. That means in the lab they are fertilized, zygote is formed, this zygote is transferred into the fallopian tubes. This zygote will undergo the normal developmental changes as that of the normal pregnancy. It will go and start its development from the fallopian tubes, go into the uterus, undergo implantation, and the same procedures will be continuing as that of the normal development. Okay. This is zygote intrafallopian transfer, ZIFT. Then we have gamete intrafallopian transfer. Okay. Gamete intrafallopian transfer, GIFT, G-I-F-T, gamete intrafallopian transfer. Okay. So, students, gamete intrafallopian transfer, GIFT, is performed when there is any problem in the ovaries to release the ova, if the ovaries are not releasing the ova properly, or if there is any disease to the ova. Okay. Inability of the ovary, if there is any inability of the ovaries to produce the ova, due to any disorders or diseases, due to the inability of the ovaries to produce the ova during any disorders or diseases, in that conditions gamete intrafallopian transfer is performed. Okay. So, here we just take the, and this is performed in those females who have the entire other parts of the reproductive tract are normal. Her reproductive system will support for the fertilization, for the development of the baby, for the implantation, for the growth of the baby. Entire reproductive tract is normal except the ovaries. The ovaries are not producing the ova. The entire part of the reproductive system is normal in this female. In such conditions, to those females, gamete intrafallopian transfer is performed. Okay. So, this is performed when there is inability of the ovaries to produce ova due to any diseases or disorders, and the female's reproductive system, when it supports the other stages of pregnancy, then this technique is performed, gamete intrafallopian transfer technique is performed. Okay. So, students, here gamete intrafallopian transfer means the ova are taken from the donor, and transferred, the ova taken in from the donor and transferred into the fallopian tubes of the females, Ova are taken from a donor and they are transferred into the fallopian tubes of the female, and from there the ova can get fertilized, it will form a zygote and it undergoes implantation, normal development of the baby will be continuing. Okay. This is gamete intrafallopian transfer, GIFT. Because of the inability of the ovaries to produce ova due to any diseases or disorders, and having the female reproductive system supporting the other stages of pregnancy, in such cases gamete intrafallopian transfer is performed. That is, ova is taken from a donor and transferred into the fallopian tubes of the females, then the normal development of the zygote is going to continue. Fertilization, normal development of the zygote, implantation, development of the embryo, everything is going to be normal again. Okay. This is GIFT, gamete intrafallopian transfer. Then now we are going to learn about the next technique, intracytoplasmic sperm injection. Okay, intracytoplasmic sperm injection, ICSI. Okay, ICSI, intracytoplasmic sperm injection. Okay. So, intracytoplasmic sperm injection, name itself is indicating what it is. See, in the laboratories itself, ova will be collected and the sperm is taken into a micro injection. Okay, ova will be collected, a sperm will be taken into a micro injection. Okay, and by just looking through the microscope, the sperm will be directly injected into the ovum. Okay, looking through the microscope, sperm is directly injected into the ovum. The sperm is directly injected into the ovum. See the name, intracytoplasmic sperm injection. The sperm is directly injected into the ovum's cytoplasm. Okay, it is directly injected into the ovum's cytoplasm. So, injection of the sperm into the ovum's cytoplasm is nothing but fertilization. Okay, it is nothing but fertilization. So, students, this is all about intracytoplasmic sperm injection. So, we take the ovum from the female's body into the lab, and then we will take the sperm, we will collect the sperms, and the sperm whatever is collected is taken into a micro injection. By just looking through the microscope, we will just inject the sperm through this micro injection into the cytoplasm of the ovum. Okay. So, when the sperm is injected into the cytoplasm of the ovum, that means ovum is fertilized. Okay. The ovum is fertilized, fertilization of the ovum occurs, and then again this ovum is going to be it is transferred into whatever the zygote which is formed here. The zygote which is formed here is transferred into the fallopian tubes or into the uterus. Okay, the zygote is transferred into the fallopian tubes. The zygote whatever is formed, it is transferred into the fallopian tubes. If it is transferred into the uterus, it is transferred at the 8 blastomere stage of the embryo. Okay, it is transferred into the fallopian tubes as zygote or into the uterus at 8 blastomere stage of the embryo. Okay. And generally this intracytoplasmic sperm injection, this technique is generally performed, intracytoplasmic sperm injection technique is generally performed when the male sperm count is very less. In that conditions, this intracytoplasmic sperm injection technique is performed. Okay, when male sperm count is very less, in that cases intracytoplasmic sperm injection technique is performed. Okay, then we have one more last technique to learn in assisted reproductive technology. That is artificial insemination. Okay, this artificial insemination, short formly called AI, this is performed when the male sperm count is very low. Okay, when the male sperm count is very low, this technique is performed when the male sperm count is very low. And also it is performed when the male is, unable to inseminate the female. Okay, when it is also performed when the male is unable to inseminate the female. Under these conditions, artificial insemination technique is performed. Okay, so here students, the sperms from the male partner or from the donor are collected and they are inseminated into the uterus. They are inseminated into the uterus, inseminated into the uterus, into the female's reproductive tract. They are inseminated, and the inseminated sperms will go reach the ovum and fertilize the ovum, and the same normal reproductive events will occur. Okay, this is artificial insemination. Artificial insemination is performed when the male sperm count is low, or when the male is unable to inseminate the female. The sperms are collected and they are inseminated into the female's reproductive tract. This is artificial insemination. Okay. So, students, this is all the different types of assisted reproductive technology. IVF, we have studied zygote intrafallopian tubes transfer, gamete intrafallopian tube transfer, intracytoplasmic sperm injection, artificial insemination. These are the different techniques related to assisted reproductive technology which we have studied. But see, students, these all techniques are not as easy that we are studying it. See, you know, practically when it comes to the implementation of this technique, it requires professional expertised people. Professional expertised people it requires. It requires all the different lab facilities, lab equipment are needed. Okay, I'll just write it on the board. It requires expertised professionals, lab facilities should be there, different lab equipment should be there. Okay, and it is also very costly. It is very costly. Okay, it is very costly. Okay, there are some chances for failure also. There are some chances for failure of this techniques also. Okay, so these are all the backlogs there in this techniques, assisted reproductive technology. It requires expertised professionals for performing these techniques. Lab facilities should be very high, lab equipment should be needed, very costly techniques. Some chances for failure are also present in these techniques. So, instead of going with all these different techniques, it is better that when one goes for adoption. Okay, there are some social, religious and cultural restrictions are there on adoption of the babies, but still there are many children who are homeless, who are not having parents. Okay, so many orphans are there. It is better to adopt such kind of children, give a new life to those children, give parents to those children, so that even your wish for parenthood will be also cleared. Okay, so in that way this adoption is legalized in our country. Adoption is legalized, we can legally adopt any baby. So that way it is better to go for adoption than to go for these all assisted reproductive technologies which are cost effective, which requires a lot of equipment and whose chances of failure are also there. Okay, so it is better to go for adoption, give parenthood to a children and give parents to a children, and you will also have that feeling also that whoever couple is there, they will also have a feeling of being parents. So in that way the compensation will be there from both the sides. The child will have parents, parents will have the children. In that way this is the better option for those couples who are childless, to give a new life to the children and also fulfill their wish of being parents. Okay, and in our country adoption is legalized. We can legally adopt any babies. Okay, there is one more thing to know about this reproductive health, students. That is surrogacy. Sometimes the female's uterus is it won't be supporting for the development of the baby. Sometimes the female's uterus is not going to support for the development of the baby. If that is the condition, then we will be going for surrogacy. It is a part of artificial assisted reproductive technology only. If the female's uterus is not supporting the development of the baby, then we will be going for surrogacy. Okay, so surrogacy is what we will be doing this zygote intrafallopian. We will be going with in vitro fertilization. Okay, we will be doing in vitro fertilization, and or we will be going for a zygote intrafallopian transfer, whatever technique it is, we will be using it. We will be producing the embryo or we will be producing a zygote, then it is transferred into the some other female who is not the biological mother, who is not the biological mother of the baby. Okay, the person into the female who is not the biological mother of the baby into this female's uterus, into this female body, the zygote or the embryo will be transferred. Zygote or the embryo will be transferred, okay, into this female's reproductive tract. Either if the zygote is transferred into the fallopian tubes. If the embryo is transferred into the uterus. In that way, the whatever the zygote or embryo is transferred into the female's reproductive tract, who is not the biological mother of this baby. Okay, the baby will be growing, developing inside this that female is called as surrogate mother. This female is called as surrogate mother, okay, who is just giving her uterus for the development of the baby. So in the surrogate mother only the development of the baby will occur, and she is the one who gives birth to the baby, okay. And in our country surrogacy is also legalized, in our country, okay. So this is all about surrogacy. So students, this is regarding assisted reproductive technology and infertility. Now we need to learn one more last concept related to reproductive health. You know, we are going to learn now about the identification of the disorders in the fetus itself. That means when the fetus is within the uterus of the mother only, how the disorders can be identified. Let us learn now. Okay. So we are going to now learn about the techniques for identification of disorders in the fetus. Okay, we are now going to learn regarding the techniques for identification of disorders in the fetus. The first one is amniocentesis. Okay. The second one is chorionic villi sampling. The next one is non-invasive techniques. The fourth one is fetoscopy. Okay, these are the techniques for identification of disorders in the fetus. Amniocentesis, chorionic villi sampling, non-invasive techniques and fetoscopy. These are the techniques for identification of the disorders in the fetus. That means in the unborn baby itself, we can identify the disorders by using these techniques. Okay. Now let us learn about each of them in detail. First, we are going to learn about amniocentesis. So students, amniocentesis, in this procedure, first during the 14th or 15th weeks of pregnancy, by 14th or 15th weeks of pregnancy, the position of the baby and the placenta will be identified. Okay, the position of the baby and the position of the placenta is identified by using sonography. Okay, by using sonography. Sonography is nothing but some kind of ultrasound scannings. Okay, by using the scannings, the position of the baby and placenta is identified. Then by using a special needle, by using a special syringe, okay, the abdomen of the female is crossed and the amniotic sac. Amniotic sac. This amniotic sac is the one which encloses the baby. Okay, this amniotic sac is the one which encloses the baby. The baby will be present within the amniotic sac itself. The baby will be present within the amniotic sac itself. So, the amniotic sac is punctured and some of the amniotic fluid is collected into the syringe. Amniotic fluid is collected into the syringe. Okay, amniotic fluid is collected then into the syringe. Now, this amniotic fluid, whatever is collected from the amniotic sac, from this the fetal cells will be isolated. The fetal cells will be isolated. Okay, and then we will be studying the chromosomes of the fetus. We will be studying the chromosomes of the fetus. Okay, by studying of the chromosomes of the fetus, what do we know? We will be knowing some genetic disorders, the occurrence of possible genetic disorders, and also the possible metabolic disorders can be identified. Metabolic disorders can be identified. Okay, so what are the possible genetic disorders that can be identified is genetic disorders like Down's syndrome, Edwards syndrome, Turner's syndrome, they can be identified. Okay, these genetic disorders like Down syndrome, Edwards syndrome, Turner syndrome can be identified. Okay, and metabolic disorders like phenylketonuria or sickle cell anemia. Okay, these are some of the metabolic disorders that can be identified by studying the chromosomes of the babies. But students, this technique amniocentesis is actually legally banned because of its misuse for identification of the sex of the baby. Okay, this technique, it is misused for identification of the sex, identification of the sex of the baby. This technique is often misused for identification of the sex of the baby. That is why this technique is now legally banned for identification of the sex of the baby. This technique is now legally banned for identification of the sex of the baby. Okay, genetic disorders can be identified, but sex of the baby is banned to be identified from this amniocentesis. This is all about amniocentesis, students. Amniocentesis is done generally during the 14th or 15th weeks of pregnancy. The position of the baby and the placenta's position can be identified by using sonography. Then by using a special syringe, the abdomen of the female is crossed and the amniotic sac is punctured. Whatever amniotic fluid is collected from the syringe, from that the fetal cells will be separated. Okay, one more thing here to be added is the fetal cells that will be isolated will be generally from the skin or from the respiratory tract of the fetus, from the respiratory tract of the fetus. The cells which are separated will be generally from the skin and respiratory tract of the fetus. Then from the fetal cells we study the chromosomes, then from which we can identify possible genetic disorders and metabolic disorders. So, those possible genetic disorders we can identify are Down syndrome, Edwards syndrome, Turner syndrome, and the metabolic disorders that can be identified are phenylketonuria, sickle cell anemia. Okay, phenylketonuria, sickle cell anemia, these are the possible genetic disorder, metabolic disorders that can be identified. And this technique, because of its misuse for identification of the sex of the baby, this is banned for identifying the sex of the baby. Okay, this is all about amniocentesis. Next we are learning about the second technique, chorionic villi sampling. Chorionic villi sampling. So in this technique, chorionic villi sampling, in this technique, you know, the thin flexible tube will be passed through the female's vagina. Thin flexible tube is passed through the female's vagina, through the cervix, into the uterus, and a small part of the fetal tissue, that is the chorionic villi, are collected. Okay. So small thin tube, flexible tube is sent into the female's body through the vagina, cervix, into the uterus, and from the uterus the fetal tissue, that is the chorionic villi, is collected. And again, how we do in the amniocentesis, I study the chromosomes of the fetal cells. In the same way, here also the chromosomes of the fetal cells, they can be studied, okay, from the chorionic villi. But here we are studying the cells from the chorionic villi. Then the next technique is non-invasive techniques. Non-invasive techniques means without actually going till the baby, we are going to perform the test which will help in identifying the disorders of the baby. One such technique is ultrasound scanning. Ultrasound scanning. By using ultrasound scanning, the morphological abnormalities of the baby can morphological abnormalities of the baby can be identified. By using this non-invasive techniques, ultrasound scanning, morphological abnormalities of the baby can be identified. Okay, this ultrasound scanning was also a technique which was used for female feticide. Okay, the sex of the baby was identified, and if it was found that the baby is a female, the female babies were aborted. That is female feticide. So to avoid female feticide, this ultrasound scanning technique is also banned for utilizing it for identification of the sex of the baby. Okay. The another non-invasive technique is based on the fact that some of the fetal cells, some of the fetal blood cells, they will be crossing the placenta. Some of the fetal blood cells, they will be crossing the placenta, they will enter into the mother's blood. Okay, it is based on the fact that some of the fetal cells, they will cross the placenta and enter into the mother's blood. So by just testing the mother's blood, blood of the mother, by just collecting the blood of the mother and testing the blood of the mother, and identification of the fetal cells in it, we can again study the chromosomes of the fetal cells. Okay, this is the second non-invasive technique that can be done. We just test the blood of the mother for the presence of the fetal cells. If fetal cells are found, they are separated and the chromosomes of the fetal cells are studied. Okay. Then we have the last technique, that is fetoscopy. Okay, this fetoscopy is the technique which is useful for taking a direct view of the fetus. There will be some thin tubes to which the scope, some kind of instruments which can help in vision of the babies will be attached. Okay, some kind of cameras, small cameras will be attached to the tubes, and they will be sent into the uterus of the mother through the vagina. Okay, after that we will be here in fetoscopy, we can have a direct view of the fetus. That is fetoscopy. By some tubes to which the cameras are attached, they will be sent into the body of the female through the vagina into the uterus. Then by using this thin tube which is having that provided with such ability to give vision to us, so we can have a direct look of the entire fetus. Okay. In this way, the developmental abnormalities of the fetus can be identified using fetoscopy. So students, this is all about reproductive health. Students, we have finished to learn completely about this chapter, reproductive health. Worksheet for this chapter will be given along with this class. So please go through the entire book and then do the worksheet. Okay. So, this is all for today students. Then we will in the next class we will be starting a new chapter, that is going to be genetics, and we will meet in the next class with the genetics topic. This is all for today. Thank you all for joining the class. We will meet in the next class with a new concept.